I talked to Aaron Cariotti, who was running UC Irvine's vaccine program as a medical policy wonk in their med school. It started to smell a problem and ended up turning, and then he got fired, right? Which is what authoritarians do when they don't appreciate your opinion. Which shows you how bad it is, right? When you're getting fired for saying you don't think the vaccine's healthy, then you are the problem. It's not the vaccine. And I got vaccinated to keep my job. So you say, well, Dave, you're a coward. I'm going, I'm the breadwinner, right? It's not like it's 68-year-old guy in Ithaca is going to get another job. And so I said, okay, it's just a theory that it's bad for you, so I'll take my chances. Then my Zoom group was saying, you can't get the boost. I go, well, they're gonna fire me if I don't get the boost. And since I got the first two and had no effect, now you're asking me to give up my job for a third? There's a problem, right? And so I'm on my third. My blood pressure's up, by the way. But it could be I'm just pissed off at the loser. So it could be that.
Oh man, Professor Dave, are you going to do a year-end review this year? I mean,
I'm trying. It's hard. It's hard going. Every year it feels like I'm ripping I feel like I'm doing, like that Ruski up in the Arctic who took out his own appendix. Every year feels that way. This year I'm going to go down dark rabbit holes for which the probability of me being right is way lower than I'm usually comfortable with. So normally I pick on something like the Las Vegas shootings, where it's very sort of offbeat. But by the time I'm done reading about it, I go, I'm dead right, period. The Vegas shootings were not done by Stephen Paddock. They were done totally different. Everything's wrong with it. This year I'm going to be going down what I call my 90-10 rule, where there's a 90% chance 10% of it's right, and a 10% chance 90% of it's right. and so when you start writing about DEWs and Lahaina fire, some percentage of the story about Lahaina fires is absolutely screwed up. But then
that story don't make no sense, dude. That story.
There's a lot of stuff that's just purely political that makes no sense, like dropping the building codes and removing the insurance policies from the houses, not turning the power off,
blocking the roads.
They claim they turned the power off. That's the problem.
I don't think they did.
The power company claims they turned off 6 hours before the fire started.
And did you see that one house that didn't burn down? It was like one house with like a blue roof that was like perfect. Some
of the blue roof stories I think are fake. But there are stories of the cops blocking the road so you couldn't get out of Lahaina, the sending the kids home. And so remember how many kids supposedly died?
A bunch, they said, huh?
Huge numbers, right? USA Today had 967 kids missing, something like that. Man. And then you go to Wikipedia.
And then The Rock and Oprah are begging for money. It's like two billionaires. And then they took some heat for that. You know what I'm saying? Like 2 billionaires begging us for money. Like, man, y'all, you know what I'm saying? Like, y'all give them money.
Also, they own land right there, so they're going to be scooping it up.
Oh, yeah. And their properties just happened to not get burned. It was coincidence, I'm sure.
And eviction notices appeared within about a week and a half.
Yeah.
Things like that. So the whole story's fucked up.
My mom's been to that
where
area
the fire come from. Where'd the fire come from? And that's where you get into the DEWs.
Well,
are those weird fires. Now we're getting into low probability, fascinating if true stories.
This would be my take on it, that the official story, I don't know what happened, man. I wasn't there. I'm not a scientist. I'm not, but the official story is not what happened. And that's for everybody else to go figure out. But we got another question from Michael. Dave, your thoughts on Dr. Judy Mikovits? Man, who is Dr. Judy Mikovits? That name's in my head. I can't.
Yeah, she was early in the COVID story, and I've had sort of mixed reviews. I hear people who know her say she's really good, and one of the problems with the COVID story. One of the problems with the COVID story is.
She was in the COVID Land documentary, I think.
Yeah.
I'm looking at her. Yeah, okay. I don't know much about her.
The problem with the COVID story is we saw the same faces over and over again.
Yeah.
And so at some point you say, I really want, and some of them were very prominent, right? They're super prominent, unbelievably prominent, scientists of the highest order. But sort of like climate change. But at some point you say, I kind of want to see some fresh faces who've come in later and said, yes, I agree, you know, and the articles are coming out, but I don't know. The problem is anything like that, you're going to attract grifters too. One could argue I'm one of them, right? Except I don't make any money. But, you know, I was on a panel discussion on economic booms and busts with 3 elite people and me. And I'm sitting there on this panel thinking, how'd I get here? What wormhole did I go through to get on this panel? And one who doesn't believe the narrative that was being told by the panel could say, well, the guy's a grifter, right? He doesn't know what he's talking about. I think I do, but you know, the climate change story, people always say, well, you know, that guy, he doesn't study climate scientists. I said, no, he's a fucking Nobel Prize in physics, solar physicist, right? I don't need a climate scientist. I need a smart guy who's not a liar.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the truth can come from anybody. Doesn't necessarily need a degree or, you know, and a lie can come from, you know, anybody.
And the lie, as soon as you get the lie, see, when you hear someone lying, you should immediately go, okay, why'd they lie? And now the stories, now I got to worry. So like Merrick Garland, a couple weeks ago said 5 cops died on January 6th. Now, it's a big enough story. He knows the body count. And the number of cops who died at the January 6th site was 0. There was one who died that night and whose family said, look, he had some health ailment. He said he was fine. He came home, he was fine. And then there's 4 who committed suicide, which out of what, 150 cops maybe? 4 suicides? You go, now you got a plot thickener. Right? That's and I presented that to someone who was kind of doubting. I said 4 suicides out of 150 cops. They said, well, it was really stressful. I said, that was a typical day in a cop's life. That's what they face every day. If you can't face 4 hours of that, you would have committed suicide years ago because you walk into horror stories. And so 4 cops committing suicide tells me that someone had to whack 4 cops because they knew too much.
Mike asks, why didn't they sound the alarm? I think, is he talking about in Lahaina?
Yeah.
And why did they block the roads? Like there was people, like I was watching interviews where they blocked the roads and people like disobeyed the cops to get around, to get out.
That's right. So they end running the roadblocks. Now, then there's the questions, do you know for a fact that's true? And I certainly had no reason to doubt it when I read about it. But here's the funny thing. You guys who read the Lahaina stories that played out, you have this vivid imagery of all the things that don't make sense. Now go read the Wikipedia write-up on it and you go, are they talking about the same story?
Right.
Their death toll is 97. They don't mention anything about a kid getting killed. They don't mention any of this other stuff. And then they get to the very end and they make allusions to Russian and Chinese disinformation. Right. And you go, so when back to Merrick Garland, when he says 5 cops died. So I say, why did you just lie? You who were a candidate for the Supreme Court of the United States, just bald-faced lie, or is it bare-faced or bold-faced? Look that one up.
I think it's bold-faced.
It's all of them at this point. You look them up and they all have different histories, it turns out. So why did he lie like that? He has to know that's not true. So why would he lie? Well, Mayorkas lies all the time, but Garland didn't have to make up that lie. So that's kind of Biden level lying where he said, I graduated first in my class from this college. You go, you never went to that college, dude. So I don't know how that's possible. You know, Biden's lies are spectacular lies. So Garland's apparently are too.